We're going to talk about Josephus. Anyway, let's go back to John the Baptist. Let's revisit because, like, if I was sitting down here with Bishop Brown, he was like, "What those logos have been? Well, fuck them, because Socrates can suck my dick." First off. But if he was sitting there, I could tell you the argument that he would go to. Like, okay, first of all, here's why that whole conception thing and that stuff, because they started mixing. They when they started creating Christianity. Right? The cornerstone who gets rejected is God and the law. He's like, the builders rejected the cornerstone. He's talking about himself. He's not talking about Jesus Christ. What he's saying is, like, when you guys were making this shit up, you put everything in there but me. You put Dionysus in there. You put Apollo. You put Thomas. You got Egyptian gods. You got Celtic gods. You got the hokey pokey god. You turn yourself around god. You got Janus with his key. You have everything in there. You have Osiris in there. You got Baal in there. You have everything in there but me. He's the cornerstone that gets rejected. But anyway, let's go back to John the Baptist. And here you can see, because originally the Gospel of John, when they were originally making this, I don't know this for a fact. I'm pretty sure. The Gospel of John was supposed to be John the Baptist. Right? The Gospel of John was actually supposed to be John the Baptist. But they ran into some kind of problem, or they decided that they wanted Peter to be the vicar. Right? Well, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to make the seat of Peter the power center. But originally, John the Baptist was supposed to be the power center. And I can prove this, right? I can tell you exactly what they were trying to do when they were writing it out. And then they got confused, and then they're like, oh, well, let's just change this stuff around. And then they probably ran into a problem with Anno Domino, and they're like, oh, King Herod died. John the Baptist they're cousins now, right? But John the Baptist was originally, because when Jesus is on the cross, right, that's why the Last Supper is in John's Gospel, but it's in the other three. But John was there, and the reason why is because John was supposed to be the vicar, but they changed their minds or something. They made Peter the vicar. Because when Jesus is on the cross, he says, mother, behold your son. Son, behold your mother. Peter's not even there. Right? And the church is like, I mean, Jesus is blessing the church and making Peter. How is he blessing Peter? Peter's not there. John's there. So by the way of this story or whatever, what he's doing on the cross is John's the Last Supper. Right? He's making John the body and blood of Christ, making the perfect work of Jesus. God comes down, and God leaves himself on earth, because if he can turn, he turns John into the body and blood of Christ. Brother, behold your son, son, behold your mother. You are now the Christ on earth. That's what it is. That's why it's not in John's Gospel. So then, like, they change their minds. They change their minds, and they're like, well, no, we want Peter. So then they have the other three Gospels, and they put the body and blood of Christ in there, negating John, because that's originally the way that they were going to go. And then they're like, well, the Gospel of John, well, we're going to have to make this, we'll make up John the Baptist now, and they're cousins. That's why he's baptizing, even though Jesus is born without original sin, with the Immaculate Conception, so he gets rid of original sin, even though God already got rid of it with Noah. That's why they throw that baptism stuff in there, because they have to make those two cousins, right? So they have to make a purpose for John, because they messed up with the date with Herod. So now they have to add another character, right? And then they have to change the Gospel of John, which was supposed to be the Gospel of John the Baptist. So now they have to make up a guy named Josephus. Josephus? You mean Cephus the rock? You mean Peter? No, we mean Josephus. Josephus, bow to Cain, and I am the bull god. I am Josephus, a king of the rock. Through. So they make up this guy Josephus, right? And he's supposed to be the expert on John the Baptist. And he writes out all these. If you go to the Catholic Church, when they want to argue about like what things are, if you go to Josephus, well, the problem with Josephus is when do we have manuscripts of Josephus? First of all, we don't have any manuscripts of Josephus. I think they might have some in Latin. that are dated around 700 AD. That sounds like, or 600. That sounds around the time, about 75 years after they instituted Anno Domino. Anno Domino, the domino said, I'm a mastermind, and now you're mine, and the domino, Anno Domino. And when they instituted Anno Domino, when that monk or whatever, and they roundly agreed it, and they put it into Catholicism, I guess it took them about 75 years, and they realized, oh, wait. Herod died 4 years before Jesus is born. We got a problem. Well, how do we fix that problem? Well, we're just going to make up this guy Josephus, and he's going to be the scholarly expert. If you read the story of Josephus, like his life story, it's the story of Paul. It's the same story. But his name, Josephus, Peter, all right? But we don't have any, there's no documentation of Josephus. They're like, well, no, he wrote these things. He was alive around this time, and he documented. But there's no documents of that time frame. They're around 600 AD, about 75 years after Anno Domino was instituted, and they realized, oh no, we made a mistake. Herod had died 4 years before that. Let's have a sin and out of this. Right? We got to make up Josephus. And actually, I don't even know